Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Garden Girls podcast with Meg, Dagny, and Amy. If you're new here and you don't know who we are, our friendship started in a group chat, and we are letting you guys in on the group chat. And today we're going to talk about ducks, chickens, and bees because each one of us has one or the other. So Amy has ducks. I have chickens and bees, and Dagny has bees. So we're just going to kind of go over a little bit about them, some pros, some cons, and just help you decide if you want to add these things to your garden as well. So, Dagny, do you want to start us off? Tell us all about the bees.
Yes, I love the bees. This is actually first year keeping bees on my own. So my mom actually kept the bees for most of my life. So I've been around them, but I didn't have full responsibility. And this year, it's all my project. And I think that while bees are a great addition to a garden, a lot of people go into it with this assumption that it's going to benefit your garden specifically directly. And while they are a great addition, they're usually actually foraging miles away, which I think people don't realize with their tiny little wings just how far they can actually go. So I don't see tons of bees outside of the immediate area of the hive, which can kind of be a pro and a con, right? Like they're not constantly in my way out of my business, but at the same time, are those the bees that are pollinating the plants in my garden? Not a lot of the time. Usually it's actually native pollinators. And so while most say the benefit is pollination, and while they do help, they're just not quite as good at it as native bees.
I've noticed that as well with my bees. Like, I do not see them in my garden. I only see native bees. The only time I see them is when they're coming in and out of the hive. And I'm
Mm.
just like, where are my bees?
Where do they go?
See,
What are they doing?
Yeah.
they're very
Where
busy.
where are you, girlies? I think that's like a misconception. A lot of people think that when you get bees, you're just gonna see them everywhere throughout your garden, and that's really not the case. It's mainly the natives.
Yeah, that's so true. Anytime I post about the beehive, people concerned like you're not actually saving the bees, it's actually hurting the bees to keep honeybees because they're kind of creating competition for those native bees. But the truth is that honeybees aren't the main reason why bees and other pollinators are disappearing. The real problem is how we grow our food. So, big farms that only have like one type of crop, this is really common with like almonds, they don't leave room for other plants that native bees need. And plus, these farms are using a lot of chemicals and they're flattening the land, which also hurts the native bees. So, the solution is really that farmers need to start leaving some wild areas in their actual crops and not doing monocropping and all of this so that this would help all other types of pollinators and insects, not just honeybees. But I keep honeybees because I believe any type of pollination is good pollination. And also, I just really, really like honey. And if I'm going to spend my money on local honey, I want to spend that money on honey that I make myself or that I have bees that make it for me.
So, if your honeybees aren't in your garden, do you think there's like a specific plant or like better plants that they like that they're flying to? And like, do you know what those are?
That's a good question. I really don't know what they're up to. It's kind of a mystery to me. Meg, do you know?
So I read in a book, well, it wasn't a book, I think it was an article about how bees, they don't really prefer to pollinate things like vegetables. They don't prefer to pollinate tomatoes, they don't prefer to pollinate cucumbers. They don't prefer to pollinate the things that we think that they'll pollinate for us. They're preferring to pollinate other things like, for instance, goldenrods in the fall. I know that we're about to have like a goldenrod flow in North Carolina. So they're pollinating other plants like that that might not be in our garden. So that's why they go and they forage elsewhere, which is really interesting because I definitely thought I would see more of them and I
Right.
barely see them.
I wonder if they're pollinating invasives more than they're pollinating natives. Like, would they be drawn to plants that are native to wherever they are originally from? And these are things like I am certainly not an expert beekeeper by any means, and I do not claim to be. People ask me to do like in depth beekeeping how to videos, and I've said multiple times I will not do them because my goal with showing the bees is less to show you exactly how to do it because there is a huge learning curve and more to just share that you can do it. It's scary and it's a little bit hard, but like that it can be done and different ways that you can do it so that people feel empowered to kind of take the lead and figure it out for themselves. And for me, it has been worth it. It's been very rewarding. And there's just something about like picking up the first package of bees you've ever had. I don't know if this was true for you, Meg, but like for me, I was so nervous. Like you get this box, at least for me, it was a package I know you got a nuke, so it was a little bit different, but the package is like a screened in box and you pick it up and it's humming with bees. I was so scared to pick it up. I was scared they were going to hurt me. I was scared I was going to hurt them. And I picked it up and I had like this sense of calm, like wash over me. It was like you feel the energy of the hive in a way, and just the fact that they're all trusting each other and they're trusting you to take care of them. And there's a lot of concern about keeping bees and the ethics of that. I know, especially for vegans, but for me, bees are the only livestock that I think are like unionized. They decide if they don't want to be there, they're going to leave if they don't like it. And so for me, I love that kind of symbiotic relationship that I get to have with them. And I find it super, super rewarding.
I actually have a really funny story about when I picked up my bees. So I did get a nuke, which is 5 full frames of bees. So there were thousands of bees. It's basically a mini colony. And I had to drive about an hour and a half from my hometown to pick up these bees. And I picked them up. And on the way back home, I got a speeding ticket. I wasn't doing listen, I wasn't doing too much, okay? I was going 34 and a 25. It was a speed trap. I was going through this little downtown area. It went from 45 to 25 real quick, and I was unfamiliar with the area.
Excuses.
I have bees in the trunk. Sorry, officer. Like,
No, literally, like, he pulled me over and he was like, "You're going too fast." I was like, "I know, whatever. Give me my ticket. Let me get on with my day." I was nervous because at this point, I had never touched bees before. I had never been around bees. I was a total newbie. I did not know what I was doing, and they were making me very nervous because, like you said, I could hear the hum in the back. I
Yes.
could hear them. And the cop looked at me and he was like, "You seem kind of nervous, ma'am. Are you okay?" And I was like, "To be honest, officer, I have thousands of bees in the back of my car right now. I am a little bit nervous, okay? I'm sorry."
how did he react to that?
He was like, "Bees? Like honeybees?" I was like, "Yes, I am becoming a beekeeper. I had to drive here to pick up the bees. That's why I'm unfamiliar with the area." I was like hoping he would maybe, just give me a little slack. He didn't. It's fine. It's all fine. He didn't. I got the ticket. But it was just a funny interaction because he did start laughing and he was like, "Oh, okay."
And that explains
I
it.
mean, I'd be nervous too. I'd be nervous too if I had that many bees in my car.
When I was picking up my bees, there was somebody parked next to me who was super nervous about that because she had one of those cars where like the trunk is open to the main cabin. And she was like, "What if they fly in?" And I was like, they're super docile. Like, you'll probably be fine. Just like pull over." But yeah, I get that. Like, it's really nerve wracking. And people will ask me, is it really hard to keep bees? And I'll be like, well, it depends on what you mean by hard, because yeah, I only have to go in there every 2 to 3 weeks and just look around usually. But there's a lot of learning that has to happen before and during keeping bees. So it's hard in the sense that you need to be a researcher, you need to be willing to kind of hit the books and learn a lot. And like, I've been observing my mom do this for years, and there's still a lot that I do not know. So yeah, it's a big commitment in general, but for me, it has been worth it.
Amy, do you think that you're going to get bees?
Well,
I know you were talking about
yeah,
it.
I would really like to. And I was going to ask both of you because it's like such a different world, a completely different thing to anything I've ever done before, and probably the same for most other people as well. What's the best way to learn about keeping bees? Like, where do you start if you think you might want to keep bees? And what do you need to do to your garden? Is there anything you need to make sure you're going to give those bees a good home?
Every beekeeper is going to do this differently. So I think exploring as many different resources as possible so that you can get all those different perspectives before you start is really helpful. So I did a bunch of classes through my local beekeeping association. It's kind of like going out into your own community, because as much as the online resources are helpful, it really does depend on where you live. Like in my climate, we're in a very northern cold climate. We deal with cold winters. It's much harder to keep bees alive through the winter. And we also have to do a lot more inspections. So like Meg and I both have Flow Hives. We both use like the Flow Hive resources online, but Flow Hive is based in Australia, and a lot of their advice is generally geared toward people with much more temperate winters than I have here. So having as many resources as possible, I think, is key in my opinion. But what do you think, Meg?
Yeah, totally. I think joining a local bee club, taking advantage of your local bee association resources is definitely key. Just getting yourself really educated because it is a whole science. There's a lot to learn, and there's a million different things that You have to problem solve about the bees. So the knowledge part, I think, is the most important part. And like you were saying about how the bees aren't really like livestock, I get that because I think our main responsibility as a beekeeper is just to observe and intervene when necessary. Like the bees are doing what they're going to do, we're just observing.
Interesting, because I guess when it comes to gardening, there are so many different pieces of advice on different ways to do things, and different things work for different people. And it's fine to experiment with that. But then when it comes to bees, you're in charge of thousands of tiny little lives. So
It is a lot more pressure.
yeah, you got to get all that information in first before you just like go for it, I guess.
Yeah, and I'm still gonna make mistakes, even having all of that information. To a certain degree, you have to let go, which I'm very bad at. The first few weeks I got the package, I was like checking them 3 times a day. I was like, are they swarming? Are they leaving? And me and Meg were texting constantly, like, are you swarming? Like,
Yeah.
does this mean they're swarming?
That was my worst fear, that they would just leave me, just
Yeah.
decide to leave
And
me.
so to a degree, you have to let go. Like as much as like at a certain point, you have to say, I've done what I can and I've done the research and they're gonna do what they're gonna do. If they don't like it, they'll leave, which is not great, but it happened.
And I have one more bee related question.
Yeah.
How much do bees cost? Like the actual bees themselves, and how, like, are there like any regular outgoings for keeping bees?
I think it can vary wildly. Which is kind of like frustrating. Like I know when I got a package, it was around $200 and that gives you like 10,000 bees and a queen. And then of course you're going to have to get like the whole initial hive setup, which can really range quite a lot. The flow hive is going to be on the much higher end of that. If you get the whole setup from flow hive with all the tools you need, is it like 1200 meg?
It depends on which model you get. I know they have a different model that's a little bit cheaper, but the ones that we got, which was the 2 plus with the package with the bee suit, with all the tools and the caddy and everything, I think it's about
Yeah.
$1,200, which is pretty expensive. It's pretty expensive because a regular Langstroth hive you can get for like 200 bucks.
I will say there's so many benefits to it. And of course, you don't have to buy an extractor, which is another huge expense that,
Yeah.
like, with a flow hive, you just don't need. So the money is kind of just being sent to a different place. And it saves you a lot of time in extracting and a lot of stress on the bees. So I still think it's worth it. But obviously, there are much cheaper ways to do it in terms of like general upkeep costs. Like, other than like treatments that you're going to do, like I'm not really spending any money because the tools are generally, no matter what price point you're at, I feel like they're built pretty well. Like they're not going to break on you very often. It's not something where you're replacing a lot of pieces a lot of the time. I don't notice like that I have a lot of ongoing expenses from it, but the startup is definitely a big investment. All right, Meg, how about your chickens though? Because I have a lot of questions about this. You've been trying to convince me to get them for like a year now, and it's working, but I need to know more. So tell me everything.
First of all, I think everyone should have chickens. I love chickens so much, and I did not think I would love them as much as I do. So I've had chickens for a year now. It's coming up on a year in September. And I've learned a lot, mainly that I just am infatuated with them. They're like my little children. I definitely see them as pets instead of livestock. There's nothing wrong with people seeing them more as like livestock, but they're definitely like pets to me. So I have 11. The chicken math got the best of me. I was only supposed to have 5. I had some issues from the start. My flock got hit with Murex virus and a bunch of them died, and I thought that all of them were going to die. So then I got more, but then it turns out that those ones I thought were going to die didn't die, and that's why I have 11 now. So I have a little more than I anticipated. But I think that's one of my tips, is that if you do want to get chickens and you think you only want 5, prepare for 10, because chicken math is real. I thought I would never be a victim, but I am. And it is so real.
I have never met someone that has like 3 chickens. Everyone who gets chickens just gets like 10. It just always happens.
It's a law. It's a law.
It's a lot. It's because the chicken math, when people told me chicken math is going to hit you, I was like, no, it's not. And then here I am with 11 chickens. So if you're thinking about getting chickens, you need a coop. And that's just a secure place for them to be, because everything on earth loves chicken. They're on the bottom of the food chain. There are so many predators that could kill chickens. So you have to make sure that you're giving them a really secure place to live, which is one of the more challenging aspects of it, I think, is like just making it super foolproof and super secure for your chickens. So you have to be prepared for that. Get a coop, again, get it larger than you think you're going to get it. My chickens aren't free range because I have a backyard fenced in garden. I'm in an urban environment, but I do allow them an outside access run area where I let them out every day when I'm doing garden chores or I'm keeping an eye on them, and they have a pretty large area to just kind of roam around. And they really love that. I don't think that chickens love to be in their enclosed run all day, every day.
I want to go back to the coop because this is the thing I get stuck on. I'm hung up on it. It's the first thing I need to figure out. So, how did you decide like to get a kit versus building your own? And did you add anything to it to make it more predator proof?
You see, you're totally different because you're more rural. So you will have to take a little bit more precautions than I had to take. I'm an urban. So I have never seen like a raccoon or a possum or anything in my yard or even a snake. Right off the bat, I knew that I wasn't going to have to predator proof as much as somebody else that lives in a rural environment. But I went with a kit. And at the beginning, I was also kind of contemplating because everyone is like, oh, it's so much cheaper if you build one yourself or you have one built for you. And that's true. It's cheaper. They're going to be more high quality if you have that capability to build yourself or have someone build for you. I'm not handy at all. My fiance is not handy at all. The only thing I can do is like operate a drill, and that's pretty much all I'm comfortable with. So I knew that building one myself is wasn't going to happen. I did have someone that was going to build one for me, but when we were talking about the logistics of getting it into my enclosed backyard, it was hard because we only have a gate. The gate is only so large. He was going to have to bring it in one big piece, and I was just like, that's not going to happen. How are we going to get it back to like the back corner of my backyard? So my only option was to go with a prefab, like a kit. And I got one from Producer's Pride is the brand. I think it's called the Chateau Chicken Coop from Producer's Pride. And I've had it for a year and I really like it. I'm really impressed with it. A lot of people said that's not going to last you over a year. And that might be true for some of them because some of them do look kind of sketchy, like they wouldn't really last. But for me, I was like, this is really my only option. I'm going to have to go with this. And also, we know that we're not going to be at this house forever. I wanted something that wasn't going to last forever so that the next owners of this house, they may not want a chicken coop and I can easily take it down or sell it and have it moved. That was kind of like my process of weighing what I was going to do. But for you, you're more rural. It may make more sense for you to either build or have one built for you. Usually the ones that are built, they're a lot more predator proof because they're a lot more sturdy. The only thing I really had to do was add extra locks to the doors. They say if a 2-year-old like toddler can open something, then a raccoon can open something. And so I was like standing out at my chicken coop trying to imagine a 2-year-old toddler and if they could open this door or not. And I don't have kids, so I had no idea. And I was like, well, I guess they could probably open it. So better safe than sorry. And I was just adding all of these extra locks and things like that.
Raccoons are scary, man. I don't know.
Thank goodness I've never really seen them around. So I really never have to worry about predators with my chickens. Even my outdoor run area is not covered. And a lot of
Really?
people do cover theirs. If you're in a rural environment, you should most certainly cover it because there's hawks. I have a little patch of woods in the back of my house. It's a very, very tiny little patch of woods. And there's like a crow gang that like runs those woods.
Mm.
Every time I see a hawk, it is being chased by crows. They are chasing it off. And I'm like, thank you, crows.
Crows are the best.
If you don't know, crows and hawks, they don't get along. Crows are very territorial, and that's why they're chasing hawks. So if a hawk like comes in their territory, they're like, get out of here.
These are my chickens.
And they don't bother chickens. Like crows don't attack chickens. It's really just mainly hawks that you have to watch out
They're
for.
just part of your extended garden ecosystem.
Exactly. And isn't that amazing? They are taking care of the problem for me. Obviously, the benefits of chickens are the eggs. You know exactly where they come from. There have been multiple studies on backyard chicken eggs and how more nutrient dense they are for you. They have a ton more vitamins, minerals, all that good stuff. The chickens love when I have a pruning day in the garden. When I'm pruning all the things, I make sure that they can eat it, obviously, and it's not toxic to them, but like when I'm pruning the sunflowers, they love the leaves, they love the seeds. When I'm pruning a lot of the weeds as well, a lot of weeds chickens can eat because they eat them anyway if they're free ranging. So that's just another benefit. And then when they poop, you can use their poop for compost. So it's kind of like, a cycle. You're feeding the chickens from the garden, they're laying eggs for you, they're pooping for you to go back into the garden. So that's a huge benefit. And then I think the biggest benefit for me is just their companionship. I really love chickens. I did not know that chickens had so much personality. I don't know what I thought about chickens before. I guess I just didn't really think about them. But now I'm like, I love these little animals so much. I think that they're so spunky. They're so funny. I love watching them like TV. Like I'll just sit outside and just watch them.
Chicken TV.
Literally chicken TV. I love it so much. But there are some downsides too, I guess. Sometimes the work can be a little physically strenuous. It's not too bad, but I mean, you do have to clean the coop. There are some daily chores that I do, like I'm making sure they have food, I'm making sure they have water. I scoop their poop out of the coop and the run every day. Their run has sand, so I have like this little kitty litter scooper that just kind of scoops the poop out, throw it in the compost. And then there's some weekly tasks like just kind of doing a more thorough cleaning of the run. Once every 3 months, I'll do a full clean out where I'll replace all of the bedding. I'm like washing down their stuff, them washing down the water and things like that. There is a little bit of hard work involved in it. The only other downside I can think of is they're really destructive. They're so destructive in the garden. You cannot allow them access to your garden. They will eat seedlings, they will dig. Chickens dig more than dogs. That's their primary thing is they dig in the dirt. They love to dig.
Why?
They're looking for bugs in the
Oh.
soil. They're looking for worms. They're looking for ants. They're looking for all the little bugs that they can eat. You can kind of use them for a benefit for that. Like I'm planning on over the winter when I clean out everything, I'm going to let the chickens dig in my beds for grubs and things. So
Oh,
that's
that's
kind of a
cool.
benefit. But while you're actively growing your garden in the summer, you have to restrict their access or they will they can destroy it in a day. They are so very destructive. Like you can't just let them free range around your garden. I mean, some people might. I don't because I've seen what they can do. But you have to make sure that you have a tall enough fence. Like one of my projects this fall is to replace the fence that I have. My fence is only 3 foot tall and I thought that that would keep the chickens out and I was so very wrong about that. They just hop right over it right in front of me. I have one chicken that's so bad about it. Her name is Lizzie, and she'll look at me dead in the eye and just jump the fence
Oh,
like, "Yeah,
Come on,
I just
Lizzie.
Lizzie.
did that."
We need to get Lizzie's
Yeah.
side of the story. We need to get her on the podcast.
Amy, tell me about your ducks because ducks are something I wish I could have, and it's a future animal when I do have a bigger farm, so I wanna know everything.
So, I have got 6 ducks, and I think, like, initially when I moved into this house with the garden, I was like, "Cool, I've got a garden, I guess I'll get chickens." I feel like that's kinda like the default, like the go-to, and chickens are really cute, and I really wanted chickens, but then I went to see one of our new neighbors who had a duck farm, like an organic regenerative duck egg farm, and they were like, why would you get chickens? Just get ducks. Ducks are so much better." And I was like, "Oh, I actually never thought about getting ducks." And we had like a stream that runs all the way along the side of our garden. It seemed like the perfect kind of setup for some ducks. And the reason why ducks are so great is because they love eating slugs. Like they're really good foragers for slugs. And where I live, slugs are like the biggest issue for gardening. They're just everywhere. It's so damp. And also, they don't scratch up the ground like chickens do. However, when it's wet outside and there's like little puddles of water, they will dig in those with their little bills and they can make it pretty muddy then. So instead of digging, that's kind of what they do sometimes. But if it's dry, they don't like scratch or anything like that. They're pretty nice to have in the garden. Like my ducks will free range. And although they're not in my vegetable garden most of the time, just because there's not the space for them there really, but when they do go into the vegetable garden, they're completely fine. They don't eat any of the veg. I know some people's ducks do, and I think it depends on the breed and the way you bring them up. Really, I think if you give them loads of veg when they're little, they like get a taste for it. But we didn't do that with ours, so they're just not interested other than like berries and things like that. They're just not bothered by like leafy greens or anything like that at all. They just love bugs, and that's pretty much it. They just love bugs. Things to bear in mind if you want to get ducks: you will need a house for them, similar to a chicken coop, just somewhere secure for them to sleep at night to keep them protected from predators. They don't really need anything special in there. You don't really need the raised nesting boxes, that kind of thing for ducks. You just need like a little soft corner of clean bedding where they can make a little nest themselves. And that's where they'll lay their eggs. You need clean bedding for them. I use like the deep litter method, so I don't need to be cleaning out their house every single day. And you also need clean water for them. Ducks really, really need water. That's the main thing that you need to provide, and you need to make sure it's clean every single day because they need it to clean out their nostrils and their eyes, and also for drinking. In terms of feed as well, you can feed them with a chicken feed. If you can't get hold of a duck feed, they do make duck feed, but you need to make sure it's not medicated because some of the stuff that they put in chicken feed, ducks can actually eat too much of it and basically overdose and die. So be careful if you do feed them chicken feed, and just make sure there's not loads of like, and I think it might be an antibiotic or something in there.
So for chickens, usually people give them medicated feed at the beginning of their life, and it has something called amprolium in it, and it's to prevent a really common chicken illness called coccidiosis. That's what the medicated feed
Yeah.
is. But it's nice to know that ducks can't have that.
Yeah, definitely. I think a lot of people have slipped up on that because they can eat basically the same things, but it's the medication that is the issue. So just get like one that's not medicated and you'll be fine. Or just get a specific duck feed, which are like where in the UK they're pretty widely available. Also, I would say ducks would prefer to have a lot of space. They love to roam. They love to explore, look for bugs, and just wander around. So the more space you can give them, the better. And also, if you have them in a really small enclosed space, that is when it will get like messy and dirty and muddy. So those are the main things you need if you're considering keeping ducks.
So do you feel like your ducks are very affectionate, or are you like, you go outside and you're like, where are they? Like, you don't even know where they are. They don't come up to you kind of thing.
I would say they're kind of in between. They don't really constantly follow me around or anything like that, but they will come up to me now and then, but they're pretty independent as well. But if you were to like run up to a duck, it's gonna like its instincts are gonna make it go, whoa, what are you doing? And like it'll
Mm.
freak out a little bit. Or if you try and like grab it, they're not like a dog or a cat would be, I guess.
Yeah. Because like in your
Um,
duck deficiency video, you're holding one, right? But I wasn't sure if that's something that you're normally doing, like where you would just like hold a duck the way that you might hold a chicken.
So with two of our ducks, basically we had a duck who hatched a load of ducklings herself. Two of them were not hatching, like she wasn't sitting on them anymore. So those ones we brought into the house and looked after them ourselves because she kind of didn't want those two for some reason. Because we were raising them from ducklings, they kind of imprinted on us. So there's two that are more friendly than the rest of them, and they're used to us picking them up because we were doing that when they were
I see.
tiny. So those are the ones that would normally be in my videos. I do pick them up occasionally. They don't mind it, but I don't think, I mean, like they're pretty chill. Like when you pick them up, they kind of relax and you can stroke their little chins and they seem pretty chill. Like they're not freaking out or anything. But
Yeah. It's not their preferred mode of interaction.
yeah, I wouldn't normally like walk around the garden carrying them. I just leave them to do their thing. I think they're pretty happy. And because we've got the stream, they're just always swimming in that. That's where they spend most of their time, just splashing around. And I love watching them. They're so cute.
I would too if I was a duck.
I think it's kind of the same with chickens. The more you handle them when they're young, the friendlier they're going to be. Like my chickens, they follow me around everywhere, but I also give them treats. I'm food to them basically. Like they know when I come out, they're going to either get fed or get a treat or something. And there's only a couple that are very friendly, like they want to be on my lap or they want me to hold them, and they like one of mine will like fall asleep if I'm stroking her neck. But I think they would just rather be kind of left alone to do their own thing, kind of like the ducks.
Definitely. And I think like food is definitely the way to make ducks friendlier as well.
Can totally relate to the ducks.
I know. Food is also the way to my heart.
Do they know to go back into their coop every night? Because with the chickens, it's like an instinct to them. They, at the same time every night when the sun starts going down, they go to bed. They put themselves to bed. Do the ducks do that as well?
So ducks don't have that instinct to go to their house when it's starting to get dark. That's just not a thing that ducks do. But again, I use food to make them do that. Like I get my ducks into a routine where they get fed every evening right next to their house or inside their house. So they know where to go in the evenings when they get a little bit hungry. They know there's going to be food there. So I don't have to like run around the garden chasing them, trying to get them to go into their house. They'll already be there every evening. So it's not too bad. There is another thing that you should bear in mind if you're getting ducks, or two things. you can't just have one duck. A lot of people always comment on my videos like, I really want a duck. You need like multiple ducks for them to be happy. And then also you need to be really careful about the male to female ratio. I don't know if it's the same with chickens. I assume it's maybe similar because during mating season, the males can get pretty full on and aggressive towards the females, and it can be a bit much. So you need to make sure you have like one male to every 4 to 6 females, or no males at all, or all males, just not like too many males to females.
It's the same with chickens. I forgot to mention I don't have a rooster because I'm not allowed to have a rooster in the city limits, which I don't really understand that because hens are loud. People think that chickens are quiet. No, they are loud. They are just as loud as a rooster. So I don't understand why I couldn't have a rooster, but I don't have one. But I think that the ratio for chickens is one rooster per every 10 hens for kind of the same thing. They can get kind of aggressive otherwise. So
Boys.
boys. My chickens are strong, independent ladies. They don't need no rooster. Actually, so Lizzie is the head hen. And I've always read about this that when you don't have a rooster, sometimes you will have an alpha hen that'll kind of rise and exhibit mating behaviors to the other
Yeah.
chickens. And I have noticed that Lizzie does that. She like will get on top of the others and it's her asserting her dominance, but that's what roosters do. So it's almost like her trying to be the rooster of the flock because a rooster does benefit chicken. I'm not saying that there's not a benefit to roosters. There is. They're protective and it's just kind of like instinctual. They just kind of help the dynamic of the flock and have a well-rounded flock. If I could have a rooster, I would. But so far, Lizzie's doing a great job.
Good job, Lizzie. Yeah, I think ducks are the same. Like if there's no male ducks, which are called drakes, by the way, if there are no males, the females will start showing mating behavior. Also, I should probably say about the downsides of keeping ducks. I've mentioned that they can be a little bit messy and muddy. They can also be kind of noisy. I don't really mind them quacking. I think their quacks are quite cute. But also, I would say the females are more noisy than the males. So it's only the girls that quack with ducks, and the boys just make a kind of like squeaky noise. I don't really know how to describe it, but it's a little bit quieter. But again, I think that can depend on the breed. Some breeds are really loud, some are a lot quieter. And also, my ducks can be kind of annoying. Like, they're a little bit stupid sometimes. And one of them will go and like sit in a bush or something just for a bit. And then another one will just start freaking out because they're like, where's my friend? Where's my friend? It'll just stand in the middle of the garden, just quacking, like as loud as it possibly can. Like, where are you?
The chickens are like that as well. There's a few that just like they're not home, especially my silkies. Silkies are known for being dumb and they 100% are dumb. Like there's no one home.
I need this entertainment in my life.
You absolutely do, Dagny, for sure.
Yeah, ducks definitely have their own little personalities, so they are very fun to watch. You get kind of like the same positives with ducks as you do with chickens in that it's like a full cycle. You get to eat their eggs if you want to. Duck eggs are like richer than chicken eggs, and I think they're also higher in a lot of the nutrients and stuff like that. Some people don't really like them, but they're really good for baking. And then also you can use their poop as compost, and with duck poop you can use it straight on your garden, so you don't have to compost it first, although I normally do because it's just mixed in with their bedding. But I have a little like mini paddling pool that they sometimes go in that's like next to their house, and I can use the water that they poop in that as a fertilizer to water my plants with. The benefit of ducks over chickens is that they're less interested in eating your veg and destroying your garden, I would say.
You're making a good argument for ducks, Amy, I'll have to say.
Honestly, if I had a water area, I would 100%. I think I would have ducks over chickens, but I just kind of want both. I think they're both great.
Yeah, I want both, to be honest. I'd have chickens. I think if anyone's considering getting chickens, it's always worth looking into ducks as well. They might be more suitable. They might not be for you, but they're kind of similar, so it's worth having a look.
I also think people should look into quail. I know nothing about quail.
Oh my
But
God. I would love quail.
I've heard they can be more affectionate, which apparently is a priority for me. I don't know. I keep bringing this up, but like, I want to cuddle the animals. I don't know. This is just a priority.
I always watch videos of like baby quail and they're just so small.
So
And I really want some, but I'm just worried that I'd just like lose them. They're that small that I feel like they just like disappear and like crawl out through some little cracks somewhere and they'd be gone.
Yeah, that's a good point.
There have been so many times that I have had my cart full of everything that I need to have quail, and then I've just not pulled the trigger because I'm like,
Really?
let me get the chickens and the bees under control first before I just start adding, other animals." But I think that's a great segue. What are your dream animals? What other animals would you have in your garden?
So I think this is something that I don't really talk about a lot online, but I actually spin my own yarn and like crochet and knit quite a bit over the winter. So I would really like to have some kind of fiber animal. Specifically, though, my dream animal would have to be baby doll sheep. They're like the size of a large dog. So you can have them on a fairly small property and they're super affectionate and just the cutest things ever. Like they live up to their name for sure. And you can absolutely shear their wool and spin it into yarn. So I definitely want either baby doll sheep or alpaca, but alpaca are just a little bit bigger and more work. So probably end up with the baby doll sheep eventually, I hope.
I'm just gonna have a look at a
Oh,
picture of baby doll sheep because I
you're
want
gonna die. They're, I mean,
They're so cute. Oh my
to.
god, their little face.
Little teddy
yeah,
bears. Oh, they're so cute.
they are teddy bears.
Oh
So
my
highly
god.
recommend.
Sorry, I'm still looking at pictures. Okay, well, I might add that to my list as well now that they look so cute. So, I mean, now that we've mentioned quail as well, I have thought about quail quite a lot just because they just look so cute and their little eggs would be great. But I would like a couple more ducks actually, and I'd like some little white cool ducks, and I want them to be my little babies that follow me around and I can just cuddle all the time. So I am tempted to actually get some of those, but I would also love some pygmy goats because they're just so small and so cute and so fun. I guess they're just like small things. I have no like use for them, but I don't think they need to be useful. I think they're just cute and I don't really want goats that I have to milk either. I just want goats that just hang out in the garden just for fun. That would be nice.
Goats would take care of your weed problem too, because they just eat weed. There's like a service that people actually rent out goats to clear out areas of pasture that have been overtaken with
My
weeds.
sister did that, like, just in her garden. It's not even, like, a really big garden, it was just quite overgrown, so she just rented, like,
Yeah.
2 goats to eat it all, so maybe I could get some and rent them to other people, and it could be like a business.
I'm
Yeah.
totally for
Why
this.
not?
I think you should.
You could rent out, like, the goats to eat people's weeds and bring ducks with them to eat people's slugs, and it could be, like, just do your whole garden, you know?
I'd rent that. I'd rent the ducks and the goats
It's a
100%.
good combo. But what would your dream animals be, Meg?
I'm not a knitter, but I crochet, so I would love something that I could make yarn from, like baby doll sheep or alpaca. But I have also been considering a turtle. I'm somebody that loves reptiles. I love snakes. I grew up with snakes, lizards, turtles, everything. And so I think it would just be really cool to just have a turtle kind of walking around the garden. And there's a native turtle here. I don't know what the legalities are of having a turtle. I don't even know if it's something that I could do. It's just piqued my interest when I saw someone else had one. I think it's like an eastern box turtle or something. And yeah, you have to dig them into the ground every winter for them to hibernate, and then they reemerge. You
Wow.
reemerge them in the spring, I think.
How do you explain this to the turtle?
They do that naturally, like, they will dig themselves, but I think you just kind of help them.
You're like, today's the day, buddy. You're going underground.
I haven't looked that far into it yet. I just know that it's like it would be cool, and I kind of wanna look into it, and I might get a turtle. I don't know. You might see a turtle in my garden.
Please do.
I
Yeah.
think my grandparents used to have one and it used to eat mashed potato and they used to keep it in just in like a cardboard box in their garage over winter in like newspaper and stuff.
Yeah, I think you can
Huh.
do that. I think the most natural thing is for them to, like, be underground, but I think there's other ways that you can keep them. But yeah, they do. They very much hibernate all winter.
I have seen a video on TikTok or something where someone's keeping it in their fridge, but that doesn't seem very safe, but interesting.
I don't know, maybe because I think part of the whole reason that you have to bury them is because their body temperature slows, and I think that they have to get cold, but I'm not sure. Haven't looked up much into it, but I think that makes
It's the
sense.
oxygen though. That's what was worrying me. Like it's so closed, but I don't know. I don't know enough about them. So
If I ever decide to get a turtle, we'll do an update podcast when I'm more informed.
Turtle pod. It's coming.
Yeah.
you're gonna have to do it now.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to get one.
Thank you. Thank you for the support because this is something that I really want to do. So might happen.
Well, clearly, I think we could go into these forever and just probably have individual podcast episodes for every single one of these and every single one of our dream animals for that matter. But I'm also hoping that this helps our listeners to kind of make a decision if they're on the fence about which one they may want to add. Or maybe you have a totally different one that isn't even chickens, ducks, or bees that you are dreaming of having in your garden. So please let us know in the comments what animal you want to add to your garden. Thank you so much for listening, and we will see you next time.